Number 3. The Malawi Terror Beasts. Malawi is a landlocked country in southeastern Africa. Dawa is a district in central Malawi, and it is home to over 500,000 people. In August 2012, the district was terrorized by a strange and vicious creature, which the locals called the Terror Beast. It killed 5 people and injured 20 more. The attacks finally came to an end when game rangers and paramilitary police gunned down the creature. They claimed it was a rabid hyena, but locals who saw the creature dispute this. They are familiar with hyenas, and they said the creature was not a hyena. They said that the back legs were too long. Whatever the creature was, the citizens of Dawa were happy it was dead. But then, months later, in March 2003, more people were attacked by a mysterious animal. 2 elderly women and a 3-year-old toddler were killed. Their skulls had been completely crushed, and their intestines and genitals were eaten. At least 16 other people were injured. Some of them were horribly maimed and disfigured. Several people lost both their hands and feet. 2 people lost their eyes and their ears. 1 woman had her nose and part of her mouth torn off. Things got to be so bad that 4,000 people from 4 villages fled to a community hall in the district's headquarters. They only returned when armed security personnel started patrolling the villages. A Parks and Wildlife officer thought that the creature was once again a rabid hyena, but he thought it was strange that the animal had not been cornered. Many villagers did not believe it was another rabid hyena. Instead, they think that the terror beast that was killed the year before had been resurrected. They think it came back to life to get revenge for being killed. After the spate of attacks in 2003, despite massive searches, the creature was not found. The attacks stopped as mysteriously as they started. Number 2. Theodore Roosevelt's Sasquatch Story. Theodore Roosevelt was the 26th President of the United States. Before he was president, he was a frontiersman and naturalist. He was also a prolific writer. In 1893, he published a memoir, The Wilderness Hunter, which is about his time tracking and hunting grizzly bears and other big game. In the memoir, he relays an unusual story from a man identified only as Bowman. Roosevelt described Bowman as an old, grizzled, weather-beaten mountain hunter. He was of German descent, and he spent his whole life on the frontier. Bowman said that when he was a young man, he and another man, who isn't named, were doing some trapping near Wisdom, Montana. They decided to go through a wild pass known to have lots of beavers. The pass also had a nefarious reputation. The year before, a solitary hunter was camping in the area. Some miners found his half-eaten remains. It appeared that he had been attacked and partially consumed by a wild animal. Bowman said that he and his partner rode their horses through a forest and set up a camp in a clearing. They still had a few hours before sundown, so they went to a nearby stream and set up beaver traps. When they came back, they found that their campsite had been trashed. Their lean-to had been knocked over, and the contents of their backpacks were scattered. They saw footprints around the campsite. They immediately thought it was a bear. They got their camp together, and then Bowman started to make dinner. His partner inspected the footprints, and he was shocked. He said that it appeared that the bear had only been walking on 2 feet. At first, Bowman didn't believe him, but he checked the tracks. It was dark, and he was using a torch, so he didn't get a good look, but it appeared that the bear did indeed walk on 2 feet. After checking the prints, they went to sleep under the lean-to. Around midnight, Bowman said he was awoken by a noise. He instantly smelled the creature and saw a large, shadowy figure. He grabbed his rifle and fired in the direction of the shadow. It appeared to scare off the beast because he heard it run back into the woods. Bowman said they rekindled the fire and they tried to sleep. The next morning they checked out their beaver traps and set up more. That day they didn't leave each other's side. When they got back to the camp, they once again found it had been trashed. This time Bowman got a good look at the tracks left by the creature. After examining them, he was convinced that the creature walked on 2 feet. They decided to camp there, but they would keep the fire going all night and one of them would stay on guard. Around midnight, the creature approached the camp again, but it kept its distance. Bowman said that they could hear the twigs snapping as the beast moved around. Bowman said they heard loud moans, which he described as a sinister sound. But the creature did not approach their campsite. The next morning, the men discussed it and decided it was best to leave that afternoon. They collected most of their traps that morning. They sensed that they were being watched. They could also hear something move around in the brush. But at noon, they started to feel foolish. They were both experienced frontiersmen, and they probably had nothing to be afraid of. Bowman said that they needed to collect 3 more traps. He volunteered to get them, and his partner went back to camp to start packing up. It took Bowman longer than he was expecting to get the beaver traps. When he was done, he rushed back to the campsite. At the site, he didn't see his friend. He called out for him, but he heard nothing. He looked around, and his partner's dead body was beside a fallen spruce tree. His body was still warm. There were 4 fang marks in his neck, and his neck was broken. Near his dead body were the footprints of the creature. Bowman believed that the creature waited for one of them to be alone. He then snuck up on his friend, broke his neck with his hands or forepaws, and then buried his fangs into his throat. He then thrashed his body about. Bowman said that he got on his horse and rode away as fast as he could. While neither Bowman nor Roosevelt called the creature a Sasquatch, many people believe that is what Bowman encountered, and it's what killed his partner. Number 1. The Beast of Gévaudan. In 1764, Gévaudan was a region in southern France. Today, the area is known as Lozère. Historian James Smith, who wrote a book about the Beast of Gévaudan, said that the region had a reputation for being remote, isolated backwater, where the force of nature had not fully been tamed, where the forests were indeed enchanted. Starting in 1764, the area was home to a series of strange attacks by a mysterious creature. At the time, France was at a low point in its history. The 7-Year War had ended, and France had lost major battles to England and Prussia. France had also lost its North American colonies. The first attack happened in April 1764. A young girl was tending to her cattle when she was attacked by something described as looking like a wolf, but it wasn't a wolf. The girl's herd protected her, and she survived the attack. 2 months later, on June 30th, 1764, 14-year-old shepherdess Jean Boulet was attacked by a creature while tending to her sheep flock. Unfortunately, she was killed. This was the first recorded death. The beast seemed to mostly prey on women and children, but it didn't do that all the time. Sometimes it would kill men when they were by themselves. Often the victims' throats were ripped out. Some were decapitated and others dismembered. But, like the first girl, some people survived their encounters with the beast. On January 12, 1765, 10-year-old Jacques Portefeuille and a group of young children were in a meadow with a herd of cattle. The beast attacked the children. They were armed with pikes, and they managed to fight the beast off. When King Louis XV heard about the children's amazing feat, he paid all the children a reward. He also personally paid for Jacques to be educated. On August 11, 1765, Marie-Jeanne Vallée, who was 19 or 20, was walking home to her family's farm. She was armed with a bayonet that was fastened to a stick. When the beast attacked her, she stabbed the bayonet into its chest. The beast was able to get away. Vallée was called a hero, and she was called Maid of Gévaudan. In 1995, a statue was created depicting Vallée impaling the beast, and it was installed in the commune of Avaux. There were several descriptions of the beast. One person said it was much bigger than a wolf, with very long hair. It had a snout like a calf. That person thought it was a hyena. Another person said its chest was as wide as a horse, and it was as long as a leopard. It had red fur with a black stripe. He said that he believed the creature's father was a lion, but he had no idea what kind of animal it had as a mother. Other people attributed more supernatural qualities to it. They said it could walk on its hind feet and had awesome jumping abilities. They also said its hide was bulletproof. Those people who looked it in the eyes said it had flames behind its eyes. In 1764, the first searches for the animal were organized. King Louis offered a reward worth as much as a year's salary to the person who killed it. At its peak, 30,000 men were involved in the search, but they turned up nothing. They even left out poisoned meat and soldiers dressed up as women, but they had no luck in finding the creature. Then, in September 1765, a large wolf was killed. The citizens believed that it was the beast, so King Louis XV paid out the reward. But 2 months later, the attacks began again. For the next year and a half, 30 to 35 people were killed. The king believed that the beast was already dead, so he didn't offer any help. The locals decided to take it upon themselves to hunt down the beast. On June 19, 1767, a local hunter managed to gun down the beast. Exactly how many people were killed by the beast is highly debated, but it's believed between 1764 and 1767, 100 to 300 men, women, and children were killed. To this day, no one knows for sure what the beast was. Most people believe it was a wolf. Other people think it was a hyena or even a lion that escaped from somewhere. Other people have more unusual explanations, like it was a creature from prehistoric times or even a werewolf. J.M. Smith, who wrote a book about the beast, believes it just wasn't one creature. He thinks it was a group of wolves. At the time of the attacks, newspapers were starting to become popular in France. One thing that they were not allowed to print was political stories. So stories about terrifying beasts gruesomely killing women and children became incredibly popular. Also, as we mentioned earlier, France was at a low point. Stories about their citizens being attacked by beasts gave the people something to rally around. Today, it remains one of the most famous real-life stories of a mysterious creature terrorizing a group of people. Thank you so much for watching this video. We hope you found it interesting. If you did find it interesting, please make sure you subscribe. We'll have a new video about the paranormal every week. If you just discovered this channel, please make sure you check out our other channel, Criminally Listed. We have over 325 videos featuring bizarre but true crime stories. You can find it at youtube.com/criminallylisted. We also have a podcast about cold cases that were eventually solved called Criminally Listed Presents Into the Killing. You can find it on Stitcher, Spotify, Amazon Music, and anywhere you find great podcasts. But that's all for today. Thanks again for watching.